Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
Vander.
Soul's not feeling good because she's just so very, very upset about this episode. I don't want to talk about it.
House of the Dragon will do that to you.
I'm not happy, Vander. I hate this show. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Love it. Perfect episode, 10 out of 10. I hate this show. It's
because you know to expect it. It was a shock.
Yeah.
When stuff like Ned Stark's beheading happened, we didn't expect it, but now we come to expect these kind of things to happen in this universe. So
yeah, it was, and we certainly had beheadings in this episode. We opened with two that happened pretty quickly. One in a dream and one at Duskendale. But we'll get to all that in a sec. Let's start off with how everything's going at Harrenhal, with Daemon, and Daemon's having bad dreams. He had another dream of young Rhaenyra, another appearance of Millie Alcock, cuts her head off. She speaks to him in High Valyrian, and he's freaking out. Wakes up for a moment, thinks he has blood on his hands. Really good editing, by the way.
Oh man,
10 out of 10. Love it. And he's losing it, man.
I absolutely love the direction they're going with Daemon's character, man. The way they're filling in the blanks, which I know is the whole purpose of this show, is to give us true events of what happened during this war. And now that we're seeing that Daemon in this infamous castle of Harrenhal, where it's been noted for centuries that this place is haunted, it's cursed. All the lords here do not succeed, whether they die or get poisoned or whatever the case may be. I love that they are playing this into this show. The book, you just know Daemon's there getting some people to fight. Fights happen, and then that's the essence of it. That's all we know from reading the book. But we're seeing that Daemon is struggling immensely with reckoning with his past, which is something that you don't expect from a guy like Daemon. You expect him to be pretty headstrong and adamant in his ways, but I like that we're getting this arc with Daemon of he really is like taking a look at his past, and he's still the same berate, angry man that he's been this whole time, but he's at least facing some of his wrongdoings. We've seen tears in his eyes. He's having nightmares because of it. We know that Daemon has a conscience now, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And the fact that they've got Millie Alcock back in there to play in these
dream sequences.
Yeah, these dream sequences. I think it's incredible because that's the Rhaenyra that Daemon loved, essentially. Not that he doesn't love current Rhaenyra, but that's the Rhaenyra that he became infatuated with once she became a full-grown woman and started to act in her wild ways. That's what he fell in love with. So the fact that Millie Alcock is coming back to display and fulfill that role for him in dealing with, demons of his past, I think is an excellent tie to it.
And also, the other thing I like about this sequence is how we all know that Daemon wants a throne. I mean, Rhaenys said as much to Corlys. She's like, Daemon wants, he wants to be king. And so in a way, going over to Harrenhal, it's almost like he's ruling Harrenhal as his own little private kingdom. It's like, fine, I'm going to go be king I'm going to go be king of my own throne with blackjack and hookers. Like and also what is Alice?
Yes.
When she's like, what, you got in a fight with your wife and now you're just hanging out here not talking to anybody, really? As she makes what I hope was like a berry wine or something, or was that guts? I couldn't tell.
So in the book lore here, Alice Rivers is reportedly a really old hag who's really just drinking the blood of babies to maintain her youthful look.
Oh, this was the Melisandre one you guys were talking about last week, right?
Yeah. So I don't believe that she's Melisandre, but that there's a very common theory and very, very plausible if you think about it, because Melisandre looks every bit of 150 years old. Once we found out that she wasn't as young and hot as we thought she was. So Alice Rivers is this a wet nurse at Harrenhal. She reportedly was the wet nurse of Lionel Strong, who was King Viserys' hand, the Clubfoot's dad, Harwin's dad. But then there's also rumors that she. Oh, I'm sorry. There was rumors that she was the wet nurse for Harwin and Larys, the two strong like boys. You know, they're men now. But then there's also that she was Lionel's wet nurse and Lionel's dad's wet nurse. So there's just all these rumors that she's like this witch who performs magic and maintains her youthful look. So yes, when she handed Daemon the glass of goop, you know, it definitely played into those theories and rumors that she's really just a witch feeding on the blood of innocence.
Nothing would shock me anymore. I mean,
yeah. So we know for sure that she is a bastard of House Strong. You know, her name is not Strong. Her name is Rivers, indicating that she's a bastard of the Riverlands, was born at Harrenhal. Again, it could have been Lionel Strong that sired her, or some say that it was Lionel's dad that sired her. You know, stories may vary. Maybe we'll get to know the truth of it. But in this world, here's just a side note. We're in a world where dragons are already there. So whereas in the beginning of Game of Thrones, magic's gone. Like they knew that it used to exist with the children of the forest and the Night King and dragons, but like it doesn't exist at that point in time. So now we're 150 years behind where there are dragons. So it makes you wonder if there's other kinds of magic going on in the world, like the Pyat Pree and the Drinking Shade of the Evening. So I think it's very interesting that we're learning about this new character, Alice Rivers, in the meantime.
Well, and it's not the first time we've seen where the idea of magic and fantasy and things like that are waning from this world. We saw it in the very first episode when Jace was at the wall and he was like, "You're just keeping out snow and Neanderthals and the guy, or you know, savages or whatever." And the guy was like, "It's a 700-foot tall wall made of ice. Do you really think they build this to keep out snow?"
Yeah.
Like there's something there. Yeah, you know, we see that in Star Wars. You know, when the original Star Wars movie comes out, chronologically, the Jedi have been gone for a long time. Everyone's forgotten, like kind of like what it was like what the Force was like. And like in this new show, the Acolyte takes place at a time when there's Jedi fucking everywhere, you're absolutely right. Like we're in this weird time where we're only 200 years removed from the events of Game of Thrones. You know, that's not a lot of time when you consider how long people seem to live on in this world. You know, these are dragon people. Also he misses time. He loses a lot of time. He just like blacks out and is in a meeting with one of the leaders of the families that were feuding.
Oh yeah, the
Blackwoods, yeah, and sees his dead wife for some reason out of nowhere.
So one can assume that this tea that she got him, the really goopy looking, blood looking stuff, is some sort of, you know, psychotropic kind of tea, it could be why he continues to have these dreams. Also, there's there's a werewood tree at Harrenhal, because you know when you're in that part of the Riverlands, there's some people that worship the old gods, some that worship the new gods. So they still have the old gods werewood heart tree outside of Harrenhal. So, and obviously there's all kinds of magic tied to that. So we're seeing Daemon have these reflections and these. God, I can't think of the word. What's the word when you
like visions or
when you look into the past, like when a show flashbacks. God dang. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word flashbacks.
I don't know why either.
But I love that. I love the direction we're going with Daemon. And we meet, by the way, in Harrenhal, we meet Blackwood, the same Blackwood that. Oh, wait. I take that back. Well, we met him later.
Well, no, we meet him. I mean, we meet him at Harrenhal.
Is that where he is?
Yeah, because that's when Daemon comes to and he's like, "Where are we at again? Who are you?"
Right.
And because it's right after he has that vision of older Aemond.
Yeah, okay.
And when he and actually I will say that threw me for a loop, because when it came back, I thought he was still having this vision of the future, and I was like, is he like sitting on a council later on? Because you see not Tully, Strong. You see Lord Strong sitting there, and then it kind of brought me back to it. But again, it was kind of like meant to make you feel a little bit, I think, kind of like how Daemon was feeling in that moment. It's not until you see the Blackwood that you're like, oh right.
Yeah, we're back in the new.
And then he reminds you of who he is, because he's like, yeah, I once vied for her
He's
hand.
The kid that killed the older guy.
Yeah, I killed the douchebag. Like just saying. All right, let's head over to Driftmark for a little bit, because we go from Harrenhal over to Driftmark, where Rhaenys encounters Alan and thanks him for rescuing Corlys. And there's a moment, and at first you're like, what's going on here? And then as the conversation continues, because at first you're thinking like, oh, is she having eyes for another young black man? But then the way the conversation tells me, oh, Corlys got some bastards running around out there, is what it seems like. So and it seems to me like he's trying to keep that, because this time in Westeros seems to me to be like being a bastard is like not something people are really okay with. Because like when we watch Game of Thrones, there's bastards everywhere. Every other character is a fucking bastard. You know, like at one point you have oh god, with the missing fingers. Shit. Davos. He's like, yeah, I'm Davos. Yeah, this is my bastard. And he's just like, yeah, it's my bastard. It's like, whereas in House of the Dragon, everyone's like, this person has a bastard. It's weird how much that seems to become less of a taboo in 200 years time. So
yeah,
but it seems like he's with, but also I understand being, you know, the Lord of Driftmark, maybe wanting to not have a bunch. There's a right to the throne issue. But
I would dare say that as far as illegitimate children goes, there's probably not a difference in how many there are between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. I do think we're just not seeing them a whole lot, and they are demonized. Even in Game of Thrones, bastards are very, very demonized. Right. Catelyn Stark hates Jon Snow,
right,
with all of her might. But we are focused especially on a royal family.
Well, she didn't hate him so much because he was a bastard. She hated him because of whose bastard he was.
Well, yeah, her husband's.
Yeah. But like, I just mean like the existence of bastards. But I guess because we're dealing so much more with the royal family in this show, I can see why.
We deal with a lot of small folk where it's just like, oh, you're a bastard. Cool, I'm a bastard.
But I like that Rhaenys suggests to him like, don't don't punish him because you fucked up. like he shouldn't be like forced to just live a poor commoner's life because you're embarrassed of him. Like, you know, he saved your life.
Corlys is giving this aura of, for whatever reason, he believes that he can hide this from Rhaenys, and that Rhaenys doesn't catch on to these things. But Rhaenys is one of the smartest women in all of the Seven Kingdoms. So, and she doesn't even like hold it against Corlys. It's almost like I mean, obviously she cares, but like she knows you're the richest dude in Westeros. Like, so he slept around a couple of times. Like, it's not like he's got 18 of them running around like Robert, but he definitely has.
Yeah.
We've now confirmed these two with Alan and his little brother Adam. We can both assume that they're both bastards of
that or Alan is just the half brother. You know what I mean? Like his brother could be the legitimate son of his mother and then like her husband or something. Do we know?
I don't believe so.
You think they're both?
If I had to guess, I would say that they're both bastards.
Interesting.
Probably even the same mom, but both bastards of Corlys. It seems like Corlys just had a side chick for a little while.
Yeah.
Their age indicates that it was before. It would have been before Rhaenys was up for the throne.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it was before they were together?
No, they've been together for a while.
But
it would have been about the time, like shortly after they were married. But I think I don't think Corlys loved Rhaenys as much as he does now. Before he thought that she might be the queen.
Their love feels very homegrown. You know
Very
what I
much
mean?
so.
Yeah.
It's over the course of time, and now
Yeah.
it really is. It's an authentic love now. I don't think it started that way.
Well, no, I doubt
it was just an alliance with two really huge
No.
families in this
It
country.
was it was keeping the Valerian and the Targaryen families together.
And at the beginning, I think that's when Corlys was probably sleeping around a little bit, because you got to think if Laenor and Bela were still alive during this time, they're legitimate children together. They would be about the same age as Adam and Alan. You could argue.
Yeah, you could argue. You could even argue that once Rhaenys missed out on the throne, Corlys went and had some like revenge pussy.
I would guess that both Alan and Adam were sired before that.
You think so?
And that the vie for the throne is what kind of drove Corlys into Rhaenys' arm more.
Once they were like, "Hey, you having other kids matters."
Yeah.
So I could be a lot of different ways that could go. Either way, we don't spend a lot of time here because Bela asks Rhaenys to come back to Dragonstone.
Yes.
Because things aren't going well at Dragonstone. We'll get to why a little bit later. First, we're going to go to Duskendale, where Kristen Cole is enjoying a victory lap with his dumb 2000s emo punk band haircut. Just lopping off heads and just amassing an army of red shirts as far as the eye can see. Just an army of cannon fodder for what's to come later. You know, it takes a little bit of time to figure out why, but
so what he's doing is visiting all of these castles throughout the Crownlands. So we're not too far away from King's Landing just yet. In fact, so if we're looking at Westeros and this is King's Landing, Dragonstone is like northeast along the coast. King's Landing is also very close to
I can find a map
to the Blackwater. Dragonstone is north and east. So they're going as if they're heading towards Dragonstone. Obviously, you need ships to get to Dragonstone.
Yeah.
But they're going in that direction, and all of these houses between King's Landing and Dragonstone that have claimed for Rhaenyra, Kristen Cole is stopping at each one and saying, "Turn your cloak, put up our flag, or we're gonna fuck you up."
Yep.
And a lot of them stick to their guns, and he just fucks them up.
And this is the first time we hear about the fabled nickname Oathbreaker, not Oathbreaker, Kingmaker, Oathbreaker. That's the other guy, Kingmaker. Right before he just lobs the dude's head off in front of everybody, and then walks off in a flawless tracking shot.
Yeah,
across no cuts, all in one shot. Just so well shot. And yeah, he's going through, and yeah, it's like, man, he's grabbing up all these little armies. Why? Because he's about to throw them all to, well, not the wolves, but to the dragons in a little bit, and so he can sacrifice them to die.
And he's doing it out of anger. He's losing so many men in this process too. Like, he really is.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's trying to get followers for King Aegon, but he's doing this so hard-headed that it's just, even his, essentially his right-hand man on this excursion, Alicent's brother, is telling him, like, dude, like, we can be patient with this. Like, we don't have to do this as quick as we're doing it. But Kristen is just so tied up in his hatred for Rhaenyra. And now he's probably mad at Alicent too for the same reason, because he feels used or whatever his cuck ass reasoning is for it. But he's doing this all for super dumb reasons. And
well, I mean, the first thing he says is like, pledge either for the rightful king or the whore of Dragonstone. It's like, all of this is because
20 years ago.
Because 20 years ago she put you in the friend zone.
Yeah.
That's all this is. This is peak incel behavior. This is
he's a bitch.
He is. We hate him, and he's the one that makes it out of this episode. Piece of shit. But
that is his goal. They're making their way towards Rook's Rest. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's more castles between Rook's Rest and Dragonstone. I think just by the time Rhaenyra gets word that Cole is doing this, Rook's Rest is just where they know his next target is. So that's how they end up meeting in battle there later on.
And before we get to there, we do spend some time in King's Landing. Speaking of Alicent, Oh yeah, Allison gets some of her plan tea from the maester.
Plan tea.
Plan
That's
tea.
so funny.
Thank you. Yes, for somebody else, because we all know it's been established from season 1 that Aegon has got a record of going around and assaulting, handmaidens and things. And Alicent was paying the girls off, giving them the morning after the moon tea. And so like the maesters are used to bringing this stuff to the queen for her to give to somebody.
Yes.
It
seems like also Allison is like drinking alcohol kind of heavily too, like because she's we're finally seeing more humanity out of Allison. Not that she's never had it before, not that she's a cold-hearted bitch all the time. Like we're seeing some humanity. She's taking in what Rhaenyra told her in the Sept that day and really trying to figure out, did I do the right thing? Did Viserys really want Aegon? Because she can lie to herself all as she wants, but what Rhaenyra told her in the Sept was very factual, very straightforward, very plausible. So she's kind of reckoning with this concept that she made the wrong choice, that she never should have went to the small council that night and told them what Viserys said. She even asked the maester, do you think Viserys wanted Aegon to be his heir?
Which, by the way, that dude's life flashed before his eyes immediately. He's like, oh, I'm going to die if I say the wrong thing right now. Yeah. She knows she screwed up. And that's why when she has that moment with Clubfoot, what's his name? Larys. I want to say Lucerys. I knew that wasn't it. Larys, when he's like, you don't see yourself. And she's like, in the last 3 weeks, my husband died.
Right.
My grandson died. My other son is like a complete mess on the king. I'm at war with my daughter-in-law / best friend. Yeah, life is. She's like, yeah. So I'm sorry if I'm a little peeved right now.
Right. Sorry if I don't want to sit in this small council with you.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm not in the mood to show you my toes like at the moment, dude. Give me a break. But also, I mean, he puts together immediately what's going on with her because she left the bottle sitting out and holding the hot rocks against the belly. I mean,
he knows, she knows that he knows, she knows that he knows that she knows, but they're never going to say it to each other.
Nope. We're just, they're
going to talk in code because she knows that Larys is likely seeing everything that happens in the Red Keep, no matter what. So,
well, he's now sitting on the small council. He's on the small council now.
He's the master of whispers for
Aegon. That's like it was hinted at.
Sneaked his way into a council seat.
But also at the same time, it didn't go well for him because they've lost Harrenhal, and Aegon's like, isn't that your castle? But Larys makes a great point. Yeah, that castle sucks. That castle's useless. It's like, oh yeah,
you can keep it.
Yeah, it's like, cool. Oh yeah, cool. Oh, the high school freshman got a car. He got a piece of shit that doesn't run. So King's Landing is where the soap opera is really on full display right now.
Allison coming to terms with the fact that she made a mistake the night Viserys died. Aegon trying to come to terms with the fact that nobody's going to take him seriously and that all they want him to do is just sit there and nod his head and let the smart people let Aemon and Kristen control the battles. Let the Lannister guy and the brown-haired guy, Ironrod, I forget his real name. Let them just discuss matters of politics. Like, just sit there and just be king. Like, nobody ever thought Aegon was going to be this great king of the people and rule with an iron fist but a warm heart. Nobody thought that.
You're just here to keep our side in control.
Exactly.
You're a figurehead.
So
it's and then also we have we didn't address anything with like the iron workers or anything today. Like, we hear a little bit of background chatter happening about like with the farmers complaining about like the sheep being taken to feed the dragons, but it's all in the background. The guy from last episode who was claiming to be a long lost bastard, nothing with that. That was all
Ulf and Hugh, which they later will be nicknamed Ulf the White and Hugh the Hammer. Both of them will play a part later on. So there are dragons that have yet to be claimed.
Yeah.
And both sides are going to be trying to claim these dragons in some way, shape, or form. They want dragon riders because they know the dragons are going to win this war essentially, along with their armies. So
yeah. Well, and Team Black is now down 2.
Yeah,
because they lost
I mean,
Luke.
Luke's was tiny and almost
but
useless,
they're still down too. They're
down their biggest one.
They're down their best one right now.
Meleys was the strongest, most war-ridden dragon
she
aside
was
from Vhagar.
Yeah, she was the best chance they had without Daemon being there.
We just spoiled it. We
Yeah,
told everybody.
We knew it was that. By the time you guys are watching this, something that occurs to me is like Alicent. There's this whole like cross metaphor happening with Alicent drinking some tea, and boom, the mistake with Kristen Cole's gone. Baby's gone. Never do that again. She's chugging wine the rest of the episode, trying to make, because that's the only way she can make the other problem go away.
Right. Exactly.
One mistake she can clear up with drinking some tea. The other mistake, she's gonna have to drink a lot of wine to. Yeah. So that's an interesting pastiche choice for, on Allison's part, on the actress's part.
Cersei's plummet into madness was also fueled by drinking wine all day, every day. So
constantly.
We'll see how Alicent, obviously much more kind-hearted.
Yeah.
An actual good person, where Cersei is not.
We also see Aemond put Aegon leave him with a kick in the nuts. He just rips him off in front of the council when he speaks High Valyrian to him and dresses him down. And Aegon can't even form a full sentence.
That was the most embarrassing part for Aegon.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Aegon knows the language enough to understand what Aemon said.
Yeah.
But he can't respond. He was just like, so
he got the gist.
I do war.
I do make a war or something. He got dressed down hard by the one that everybody knows. Like it's the equivalent of somebody having a degree versus somebody having the experience.
Yeah.
Aegon is the example of somebody who did the bare minimum, got the degree, passed their way through. Aemon's the guy who put in the work, put in the time, and is getting passed over for the guy who's got a degree, basically.
And we'll see this, even the slight difference between, so you got Viserys and Daemon, Aegon and Aemond. Viserys and Daemon are similar to that sibling rivalry because Daemon felt the same way. It just in the way that Daemon and Aemond feel towards their older brother who is the king. They're like, I feel like this should be me. Daemon's a little more entitled, obviously, because Viserys was a good king.
He'd also had longer to stew on it.
Yeah, much longer.
Yeah,
very long reign. And then Aemond is thinking the same thing, only Aemond's kind of right. Like Aemond should have been born first, and he should be the king right now in his eyes, which makes sense. He would be a much better king than Aegon. But we're seeing Aegon kind of deal with the fact that nobody takes him seriously. Not his brother, not his mom, not his council members.
Yeah, well, and part of it's
not
the fault.
His wife.
No, who's not in this episode at all.
I didn't see Helena.
But also, like, if you think about it, I think this is proof where Aegon would be a good king if this was peacetime and you didn't have to deal with anything complicated.
True.
Aemon's going to make a great wartime king. He's not. He wouldn't know what to do with himself on the throne in peacetime.
That's true.
He'd pick a fight with somebody.
Yeah. Same thing with Daemon. Hell, Daemon didn't even get to sit on the throne.
Yeah.
And still went across the stepstones to start a war that wasn't even in their country.
Yeah. Hell, the moment that he was even able to claim anything of a slight against Rhaenyra's side, he was immediately like, call the banners to arms.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm ready to go fight. Yeah. Well, we go from King's Landing. We go to Dragonstone, where Rhaenys gets there, and the Rhaenyra isn't back from King's Landing yet.
Nobody knows where she went.
And the council is, and Jace and Bela are doing their best to run things, and the council is just eating them alive.
Yeah,
because they're a bunch of kids with no war experience.
They're going to try to take advantage of them.
That was the whole reason they wanted Rhaenyra gone in the first place.
Yeah. So.
And Rhaenys gets there and is doing her best, but even they get to the point where they're like, "Who are you?" And we were wrong. We were wrong from this one. She was never named the Hand.
Yeah,
yeah.
That was so weird. That was like a.
Oh, I also figured out. It took me the necklace that Cole is wearing. is a bunch of hand. I noticed it today. I was like,
Because when you wear
oh,
armor,
because
so
you
even in
can't
Game
put
of
the
Thrones,
badge on. Yeah, that makes
In
sense.
Game of Thrones, we never saw a Knight of the Kingsguard as a hand of the king. It's happened several times throughout the lore, but yeah, we see what they wear.
Yeah,
instead of the pin.
So yeah, so she never was, which was interesting that she never was. But they were like, yeah, you technically don't have. But Corliss makes a good point where he's kind of like, who honestly gives a shit who's in charge? Like, you guys know what needs to be done. Just do the job.
Yeah,
you know the mark of any good team is you don't need to have your boss there. Any team worth their salt can do their job without the captain. Otherwise, there's no point in you being on the team, if anything.
So that aside from her family, Rhaenyra doesn't have faith in the rest of her allies right now.
None, because she has basically who was available.
Yeah. And that's why she's going out of her way to do everything she can to make sure she makes the right decision. There's people that have been out on Twitter, and I will say this directly to you people on Twitter, that are mad about this scene where Rhaenyra went to the Sept to sneak in and talk to Alicent. Was it a rush scene? Yeah, probably. But we have to understand as a viewer of the show that Rhaenyra is doing everything to make sure that war is her last option, that war is the only thing that she has. So she needed that conversation with Alicent, which never happened in the books, as far as we know. That needed to happen for Rhaenyra to say, this is how we're going to go to war. If she would have called war any time before that, then we know that she is at least somewhat impulsive in her decision making. We have to know that as queen, Rhaenyra is going to make the right choices at the right time with the right information. So when we see her return in this episode, she walks into the chamber room while they're doing the council. And she tells them flat out, she was like, I went and saw Alicent, and everybody's jaw drops to the floor. And she's like, I snuck in. I had to make sure that war is what we have to do no matter what. There's nothing I can do about it.
She's like, I inherited 80 years of peace. If I'm going to fuck that up, I'm going to make sure I didn't have any other option.
And she gets right to it. We know that she's
I almost, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I almost feel real quick like that thing she says to them, like, some people have seen like my inaction as like weakness or what. I was almost kind of like, that was for the haters.
Yeah,
that was for the people bitching online of like, you guys think I'm just fucking around doing nothing. Like I know what that was for the audience of like, oh yeah, no, now we're gonna fuck some shit up. Because like I said that last week, where even I was like, I'm at the point now where I'm ready to see some dragons fight, because that's been the whole thing that we've been building towards. Don't do a repeat of Game of Thrones where it takes 7 seasons. Right. By the way, we did get confirmation from the show's producers that 3 of the eggs that
they are Dany's.
They are Dany's eggs, the ones that the other daughter took to
Pentos.
Thank you. It's a lot of words
with Joffrey and
with the little ones,
Aegon the younger, and Viserys.
Yeah.
So and I knew in that moment that Rhaenyra, she wasn't ever like in denial that a war might happen. She was prepared for a war to happen, but you prepare for the worst and you hope for the best. That's what she's been doing. She hoped that there was a chance. She learns there's not a chance. She already knows what she wants to do. She had the information that she needed. She gets the intel that Cole's on his way to Rook's Rest. She agreed. Jace was like, we need to send a dragon out there. And she was like, I agree. We need to do that. And Rhaenys is the one that steps up to do it. And because, Rhaenyra would have done it herself, most likely. But obviously her council is going to advise her against that. She's the queen. And they send Rhaenys instead.
Yeah. And I love all the moments between Rhaenyra and her kids. Yes. Both season 1 and season 2. All the scenes where Rhaenyra is being a mom are some of the best acting moments, I think, from Emma Darcy in the show. She is like, she does such a good job with just because I think sometimes we see romantic chemistry on screen between actors all the time. That's easy to fake too.
Yeah,
it's hard to pull off familial chemistry and they are doing a very like I didn't always buy that people are related when you see them on a show. Like it just feels like they're related because they're telling me they're related.
Yeah.
I believe Rhaenyra is their mother on the show. Testament to the actors in particular in those scenes.
And they're incredible.
And everything that but I love that, like, because it would be really easy to fall into the trope of she's just holding back Jace because she doesn't want to lose another kid. And it's like, I'm sure that's part of it, but she also was like, there's more to it than just motherly, and tells him about the Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes.
So we're assuming that while the final sequence is happening, he's getting the whole story. Just like, hey, we don't need to hear it again.
Yeah,
we've heard it. It's fine. We don't need to see Uncle Ben die again. We know how he becomes Spider-Man. It's fine. And then we go to Rook's Rest, where
the first big battle of the season takes place.
This is worth the price of admission.
There is no way to, because obviously each scene, this is where show writers and directors and producers and editors and CGI agents, all those people come together to just make an incredible, entertaining, compelling scene with the music that was playing in the back of it, the choreography of the fighting. This is a typical Game of Thrones scene, and it's one of the best ones we've seen in this universe. You know, Battle of the Bastards, Battle of Blackwater, the battle at the wall, the battle against the White Walkers, and now this one. Like, that's like there's a small handful, maybe half a dozen battle scenes in Game of Thrones that will stick in our memories forever. We have now found finally our first one in House of the Dragon. They did not disappoint. It was absolutely amazing.
Wasn't maybe as on as big or grand a scale as like Battle of the Bastards, because that was massive armies coming to fight.
And that was all horse riders and foot traffic. We're talking about dragons.
This was dragons fight. You just give me 2 dragons fight, and then I'm good. You don't need more than that.
About you can fight in a battle where it's all horse riders and men with swords and crossbows or whatever, and you'll lose 2,000, but that's just like a number. But the people that are in the sky fighting on dragons are the most important characters in the show. The battle commanders aren't on the front lines in these episodes of Game of Thrones, but the battle commanders are the dragon riders, and that's what's so compelling about it, because you never know who's going to get chomped down. We saw that with Luke. You never know. Man, I loved especially how I knew Aegon was going to be there, but I loved how they played it as if, his council was telling him not to go or trying to protect you. I love that it was just his boneheaded mistake to just be like, to go get on the dragon and be like, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to go fight. And then to the Vhagar thing. So
because he's been trying to get out there on his dragon all season so far. Every time, I think at least once an episode, he pitches hopping on his dragon and riding out to meet someone. And everyone's like, no, shut up and sit down.
He's impulsive, and Sunfire does not have any experience fighting a war.
No, she wanted to play when he's armored up and goes to Reiner. She gives him a little, like the little kitty, like when a cat wants some love and they give you the headbutt. She was wanting to play. Yeah, she wasn't ready for Melise to show up and gut her to where she was spilling blood out all over. Did they have like acidic blood or something like that? Was it burning, or was it just gross?
Yeah, their blood boils.
Okay, I figured. I thought so.
Is essentially boiling.
So
the fire that they breathe is 1,000 times hotter than any fire.
I thought so. There's a lot of dragon lore out there. And also, so was Vhagar trying to kill Aegon in the book, or was that an interpretation they did for the show?
No.
Okay.
I don't think that Aemon's primary goal was to kill Aegon.
He saw an opportunity,
but yes, it was like, it's almost like a secondary bullet point. He was definitely going after Meleys, because on the one hand, he knows that Sunfire with Aegon riding him stands no chance against Rhaenys and Meleys. This is not going to happen. So that's when he goes up. I love that they had Vhagar hiding. I thought that was really good.
I also love that when he tells Vhagar to wait, Vhagar is just so like, I'm so tired. That was the most Garfield, just like,
Shit, Vagar's a couple 100 years old at this point.
And also it wasn't until the last episode, I feel like in season 1, they didn't always do a good job of really conveying just how big Vagar was until the last episode with Luke. This episode,
humongous.
You felt the size of Vagar. Holy shit.
Because even Meleys is a big ass dragon.
Yeah.
And then Vagar
was dwarfed by yeah.
Jeez.
It's like there were a couple times once we get to Rook's Rest, there are several times throughout that whole last chunk of the episode where I just kind of stopped breathing. Where I caught myself going, oh yeah, that's right, I gotta do that. Fuck. Yeah.
Man, the acting from Eve Best on Meleys too is just incredible.
Also, props to the CG animators. I felt that dragon's emotions in the couple close-ups we had of the dragon. Like there's no action. So like I'm gonna shout out to the CGI animators as the actors in those sequences, whatever they were doing to really convey it's in general. Like I really believed in the relationship between Aegon and Sunfire.
Yeah.
And Sunfire. I was like, she wanted to play with daddy, you know.
Yeah.
Like even Vagar, it seems like he and Aemond have been after the fuck up that happened with Luke, like Aemond's been having some moments of Vagar, like we got to get our fucking shit on lock, man. But you mentioned like Meleys has been through it. Her and Rhaenys have
that is the number one relationship between dragon and dragon rider.
And I think Meleys and Rhaenys is one that's like you talk about couple goals with Rhaenys and Corlys, dragon and dragon rider goals with her and Meleys. Like Rhaenys forms the best, strongest relationships with those closest to her. Yeah. Which was why we get into the decision that she ultimately makes in the end to go back. Because like her and Meleys have that look at each other of like, we're going back, aren't we? Of like, we're going back. Like, this is it. And there's a part of me that almost feels like it was Rhaenys's way of saying, I don't want to live in a world where my family is fighting anymore. It almost felt like her way of saying, like, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory so I don't have to watch my family. Because in that moment, it almost seemed like she was having a realization on her face of like, I just tried to kill my nephew, my great nephew, my cousin's kid. I just tried to kill my cousin's kid over a throne that I was denied.
Yeah.
Fuck this.
There's so much complexity with Rhaenys' character, especially in the show, that like there had to have been a lot of things going through her mind in that moment. And I could see it all, you know, like on the one hand, there's almost like a suicide component to it. Because they've played it up into the season so far. You know, Corlys is building up his ship so he can get back out and fight some more, knowing that he's going to war. And Rhaenys is like, Rhaenys just wants to fucking snuggle. Like, Rhaenys just wants to live at home. But her husband is still caught up in a war. She's dealt with so much stress of him getting into these battles, almost dying, coming home barely. You know, she finds out about his bastard kids, or at least confirms them. I'm sure she had an inkling of it before. So there's almost like you know what? I've lived as good as I can live. My life is not what I want it to be right now.
My kids are dead.
My 2 children are dead.
Yeah. Well, we know Laenor's alive, but as far as she knows, both of her kids are dead. Yeah.
But then there's also the component of I vowed for Rhaenyra. We pledged our house's banners to Rhaenyra.
I have a job to do.
This is a job.
This is what I signed on to do.
And then also, like you said, the guilt of, man, this is my family. Like, I'm fighting my family.
Because she's been the one to bring that up time and time again this season of like, family fighting family this ain't it.
Yeah.
This is terrible. Like, well, even this whole episode is her just being exhausted with everyone around her of just like my granddaughter and grandson are being left to my light just died are being left to handle a war council while their mother disappears while she fights. It's like like what the fuck is going on in my life right now?
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I think that's why that's probably why she volunteered so quickly for it, because obviously Jace was like, let me go, I'll do it, we need it, because they just needed a dragon at Rook's Rest.
Yeah,
and
they just needed to show up.
Yeah,
but it all turns out to be this big fucking trap that Dickhead McDickcheese laid, and it
would have worked so much better if Aegon didn't show up.
Aegon almost cost him.
The dragons going to Rook's Rest, they don't think that they have anybody. They basically it's another scout party, and like if you see Cole's army, fucking blast him. Like they didn't expect there to be Vhagar there. So when Sunfire shows up, dude, that just throws everything off. You see, Meleys is gonna make quick work of Sunfire 10 times out of 10.
If Vhagar hadn't have been there,
Meleys didn't even breathe fire. By the way, when Meleys was fighting Sunfire, didn't even need fire, just fucking clawed and bit him.
Sunfire was like trying and was barely able to break off one of Meleys' horns.
Yeah.
And that happened right when Vhagar showed up. Like, that if Vhagar hadn't have been there, then Aegon would have lost the war that day. You know, is he dead? He's not dead.
We'll see. Look, it's impossible for me to tell, even based off of what I've read. Like, it's impossible for me to tell the direction that they're going here.
Okay, because this isn't what happened in the book.
There's just so much context that you
that's
don't.
Fair. Okay, that's fair.
Like I
don't know why I asked. I usually don't ask. Something
between the differences I've seen from book to show and the twists that they've made and intertwining one character to really fulfill the role of several.
Yeah.
Like there's just no way I can say it without either spoiling it or giving the wrong answer.
That's fair.
And being wrong.
I will say something you mentioned. I wanted to bring this up before we wrap up here. Is you mentioned Corlys just seems like he's getting his ship to go on to the next battle. Laenor was the same way.
Yeah,
Laenor was 1,000% the same way. It was a big fight between him and Rhaenyra, which is like, hey, can you just sit down for 10 minutes and be like? I know we have this whole hall pass thing. Can you sit down for 10 minutes and just fucking,
That's how Valyrian men are.
Yeah, they're warriors.
Yeah,
that's what they want to do. Man, this was easily one of my favorite episodes of Game of Thrones anything ever. Should
we quickly discuss what we've seen in the trailer?
I didn't watch the trailer for the next episode, so I will let you do that if you want. I usually don't watch those.
Oh, so
you can go ahead though.
The opening part of the trailer, and I'll just do a couple little tidbits from it because most of it's just like them talking and saying stuff out of context, so you don't really know what it means. But they have Meleys' head back at King's Landing. The dragon's head, and they're walking through the streets. This is the head of the traitor dragon Meleys,
the one that
we have won this battle. Just making an announcement. The same people that were like Rhaenyra the Cruel is responsible for this.
The one that killed a lot of your family when it busted up through the dragon pit.
Literally, and they're using it politically to obviously garner attention and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it starts with that.
It's very contemporary.
Aegon's body has been brought back to King's Landing. We know that. The question is asked, I believe it was Allison that said it. She said, is he dead? So it's even after watching the trailer, it's still up in the air. But after Aemon, because Aemon walked away thinking, that's him. He's toast. I'm gone. And then Kristen's like fucking kind of crushed by it. Like, that's his king.
Well, yeah, he's both the hand and the captain of the King's Guard.
Yeah.
If Aegon and this was all his plan, this was all his at the end of the day, if Aegon is dead, it is all his fault.
Yeah.
It is 1,010% his fault if Aegon is dead.
So we can surmise that if Aegon is alive, he's fucked up, man. Like he's what can he do? It begs the question of who if not him, then who? Aemon is next in line. Because Jaharis died. In the books, obviously he had more than one son, but right now, like if Aegon is incapacitated to rule. Which, if you just took a dragon fire to the face and fell from a couple 100 feet off a dragon,
unless they imprison Cole,
yeah,
Cole rules in his stead as Hand of the King, doesn't he? Isn't that because that's what they were doing when Viserys was incapacitated? Was that remember? Because remember, Alicent says the same. She says that to Aegon, like the whole time your father was MIA, your grandfather and I ruled,
but that they were the ones that were there. So Viserys' heir was at Dragonstone, obviously Rhaenyra. Aegon was too drunk and stupid to do anything.
Yeah.
So I would assume that Aemon would kind of inherit some of those tasks.
Well, he's
some
basically
of
been doing it anyway.
Yeah.
He's been doing all the important king shit that Aegon should have been learning to do. Yeah. That was again kind of the theme. Man, Alicent's dressing down of Aegon was so good.
Yeah.
That just like, yeah, dude, like you could have made this. I know we talked about this already, but yeah, you could have made this a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
You chose to just be a dick about it. So congratulations. I love this episode.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Can't wait for the next one. We'll be back again next time talking about that. Let us know what you think down in the comments of this one. Make sure you guys follow Vander, all the social medias. All the links and stuff are down below. We'll see you guys again next time here on Off the Wall.